Okay, so thank you for being a part of my paper cutting illuminated
Okay.
workshop.
We can still talk too, right?
Yeah, so I have here with me my two budding paper cutters.
Cohorts.
And I'm gonna just talk about my work, mostly my light boxes. Also, I'm gonna show some examples of my installation art and some like more pure paper cuts that aren't light boxes. But mostly the light boxes and also kind of how I got there. So you'll recognize these light boxes as similar to the format that I have in the classroom. This is from an exhibit I had in Glen Echo in 2024.
There's different than the one we're looking at over here.
They're a little bit bigger, but other than that, they're the same format and
Design.
the same kind of construction. And I've been doing this sort of construction for about 14 or 15 years with there'll be a few variations in this, but you've got the painted exterior, the single sheet of cut paper on the inside, and then the clear paper where the light is showing through. And these are all about 3 inches deep, and they all tell a story. These three in particular are about the history of chocolate, but I'm going to talk more about that a little bit later. First, I want to show you kind of how I got here. I first started developing a style in college, and I started doing these really graphical digital prints that I have at Jeremy Biting Aaron. That was back in 2003. And I really enjoyed the crisp edges, and you could already see like the interest in economy here, implied line, and paring things down to their essentials. But what I didn't like about it was that the digital print just has so little depth to it. It always looks better on the screen than it does once you print it out. So I wanted something that was a little more tactile, a little like fun to see in person. So I started translating those types of designs into painting. So I have Russ and Muriel here, which is my favorite from that time period. And this is an oil painting. But it was not so much fun to paint really, really flat shapes. I didn't enjoy the process. And I even had a curator who showed my work once tell me, you know what, you should really just stick with the digital art. Like, thank you for your honesty. I will stop painting now. But I kind of persisted a little longer. I'm like, what if I painted them on plexiglass?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
See, I'm losing that line on the phone, top of the head. Yeah,
Well, you
look
draw
right.
the border and it'll be fine. Just trace your board. Well, I guess you'll have to do a new line, but did you go all the way through here?
Oh, I see what I did.
Yeah, use your new line. Use your new line.
Here.
Okay. So we're working through the presentation here. So I showed these paintings on acrylic to an artist during a critique, a professional artist. I was still kind of in the student phase, and he's like, well, I don't know about these. I mean, you might as well just like cut them out of that craft foam. And he meant it as an insult, but my reaction was like, that's a really good idea. I'm going to start cutting these out of craft foam. So that's one of my craft foam cutouts. I kind of skipped over paper. I did a few construction paper cutouts just to get the feel of it, but then I right away went to craft foam, which is kind of insane because foam is a lot harder to cut out. And I'm using a very different style here than a typical paper cut. So you could tell that I'm teaching myself how to do this because no paper cut artist works like this with the outlines being removed and the interior shapes remaining as the product. So it was kind of like a puzzle to put together.
Cutting that up.
Do your border first, but then you can start cutting. Or if you want to do your interior cuts, that's fine.
I didn't trace the border, I got.
Yeah, yeah, but you'll need some white there, or you can just redraw it, because it won't transfer. There's no white on that part.
Just draw it in
You can just redraw it, yeah.
on the black.
Right, yeah, you're done with that one for now. A natural solution to this was also screen printing. People kept telling me you should do screen printing when I saw my foam cuts, and I tried screen printing. This is one of them in graduate school, and I hated the chemicals. I hated when the screens would get clogged and you had to start over. And I wasn't really interested in multiples, which is kind of why you do screen printing, right? Like if you don't want a multiple, why would you do this fancy screen? So I dropped that. I'm like, no, I want to stick with the cutting. So this is these are some of the examples on the top of my MFA thesis. And I decided when I was doing a workshop at Haystack Mountain School of Craft in Maine, we were taken to a hardware store to find materials to work from. It was actually a fibers class, but you can it was called constructed line. And I discovered paint swatches because it was a free material, beautiful colors, and it already had these little frames, like cells, in which I could draw a little scene. So this is when I started doing sequential art. This is a very short sequence, kind of like a comic book. And it was continuing my theme of just interactions between people. That's sort of what I was focusing on at the time. And I kept all my negatives. You can see the silhouette is removed of the person. I kept all those and I glued them onto other paint swatches and turned those into magnets. So the magnet part was probably my favorite part of the installation because people could move them around.
And interact with each other.
Yeah, create their own stories. But I made about 200 of these paint swatch pieces. And so when I was done with the project, I had sold a few, but I had some of these left. I didn't like to frame them. So I was trying to figure out what to do with them, how to display them. I started making boxes. So this is one of my very first boxes. It's not a light box, but it's just a balsa wood handmade box. And I cut a shape out of the front that somehow related to the scene inside. And the box is wrapped with scrapbook paper. And that is also meant to go with the scene inside. And then I started to get away from the paint swatches and do silhouettes specifically for these boxes. And I started putting lights in them because you can tell from the divan dive, it's really hard to see inside once you put the thing in the box. So it was a natural progression to
Divan dive.
divan dive. So divan like a couch. And so inside that piece, there's someone jumping onto it, and these are tiny, because it's a paint swatch, right? The study date is a little bit bigger. It's about 6 by 6 inches, I think. At this point, I'm still.
Is that an art term, divan dive, or?
That's just the title of the piece.
Oh.
Yeah. And back when I was doing these pieces, they didn't have LED tape yet. So luckily my husband is a chemist and he knows a bit about electronics. So he taught me how to make little circuits with the LEDs that you would buy at Radio Shack at the time. And so I made a bunch of my own circuits. And now they're not very bright because it would have like 3 LEDs in there, like 3 little bulbs, and that would be it. So not a lot of light, but just enough that if you dim the lights in the room, it would make like a nightlight kind of impression.
Cozy.
Yeah, kind of cozy. And I also started painting the light boxes exteriors at that time too, rather than using.
You said to draw the line this, I can see,
Yeah,
but here you actually see how the evenness of the line, right? Do it this way. For your border,
yeah, now you don't have the original line, so yeah, I think that's right. You want to go
That
where
makes-
you can see
that
it's
makes more
parallel.
sense.
Yeah,
Okay, thank
yeah. I'm gonna skip ahead a number of years to one of my more recent light boxes, which you've seen here today. And
See,
yeah, so here I'm gonna talk about just how I put them together. And they're a little bit different from what you're doing today. These take about 50 hours to construct or so. We're doing a really short version. So we already know we have a single sheet of cut paper. I'm usually using a pastel paper or maybe a canson maton paper. Generally now I always make the silhouette is the part that remains paper. Now I know more about paper cutting from actual paper cut artists, and you know that is really the best way to go.
I got this line here.
You won't cut there.
Oh, yeah,
You'll
just
cut
cut it up to it,
there.
up to it.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
you
gotcha.
might want to erase that and do this part in the white pencil, just so you don't forget. Because
So I
you,
got-
you'll tell yourself over and over again that you're gonna remember, but it's so
Right,
easy to
right,
forget.
right.
So connect your dots with the white pencil to make the border again in white, so it's really visible.
This line here stays. I'm gonna cut up to this point, right?
Well, I don't know the point because I don't see the border, so draw your border first. And then this has a wooden substructure. So I use 1x2 boards to make frames. I'll make two sets of frames for each light box. And then the artwork sits in between. There's a sheet of plexiglass on the top, and that sits right against the wood. And then the whole thing is wrapped in a
Correct,
paper that's,
Correct, I'm cutting the shape out.
yeah, that looks good. Yeah, and that's painted with gouache and then varnished. So the way I varnish it, if I were to paint the varnish on, all the gouache would run. So I spray it with a UV resistant spray that fixes the gouache, and then I'll paint on another layer of varnish just to make a really hard surface so that it doesn't scratch and it's dust resistant and all of that good stuff, and UV resistant too. And then here's the inside of the box. It's some deconstructed boxes. So you can see down here the two stacks, the stack of the two frames. And Ken, you'll want to see this because you were curious about this, how I did the interior. So the two frames on top of each other, I've got the paper cut in between them, a sheet of plexiglass
Hey, you
sitting on the
attach- I
top.
attached two boxes.
There's a screw at each corner that holds the whole system
Hold
together.
down, hold down.
I mean, you know, it'll go halfway through the second, roughly halfway through the second,
Huh,
1x2. Yeah. So it can all be deconstructed again if necessary.
Now,
if
you
there's
do-
a
what do you do?
problem.
What kind of, use a screw that matches the wood color or using,
The screw isn't visible. It's on the back, so you don't have to worry about it. And then
so
even
you're
if,
coming, you're coming up then.
yeah, I don't go through the plexiglass. I come
Okay.
up
Gotcha.
through the bottom. So you can, here's the back of one without the, on the upper right, without the backing board on it. So I would have probably screws like
Oh,
in the, each corner that you would see the screw head if the paper weren't there. But that kind of shows how the paper wraps around and connects on the back. And you can also see my original LED circuits in this older piece. I've since replaced them with the strip lights, which are a lot more reliable and a lot brighter. And you can also see on the right, this is a piece that is kind of mostly put together,
So you're using batteries,
on the left rather.
use batteries?
I use power adapters. They plug into the wall.
Okay, cause I found, I did the same kind of thing with batteries, but the batteries always
Yeah.
corrode and then you ruins the whole
Mm.
connection, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You'll have that problem.
Right, yeah, these all plug into the wall. And yeah, you can see on the left how the paper is flat here, I've painted it and I've varnished it. And then we'll see in this one how the finished product looks once I wrap it with the paper. And sometimes the opening of the paper will
Mhm.
kind of relate to the interior. So this piece, it kind of has a Gothic feel. So I used a Gothic window shape to wrap the work. And then I want to talk a little
And I
bit.
cut beyond, I don't know. It's
Oh, let me see.
On that foot, I cut a little bit beyond.
You could either just put a little tape on the back when you're done,
Uh-huh.
or you could change the shape of the foot a little bit so that it works. But this is why I'm saying it's a really good idea to erase all of your overlaps so you don't accidentally go over.
No,
So-
what happened was I was cutting and I should have stopped so I could see how far to take it, and I went too far.
Right, that's why you want to draw these lines really clearly and erase at the overlap so you can see where to stop.
Oh, you mean erase? Before you get there, you mean?
Yeah, erase at the overlap. And draw very clearly your border where you do, wherever you want to cut, you want a very clear line. Wherever you don't want to cut, you want to eliminate that line. So use your white pencil.
You say you want, I'm having trouble multitasking because I'm listening to you also. This right here, you want that line there or not?
Only, no, not
Yeah,
there,
up to here.
up to here, which you already cut that part.
All right,
You just need it at the bottom.
all right. Thanks.
I mean, you could just stop working and listen too.
Well, then I'll get nothing done. You want me to get these done by the end of class, so I'm trying to.
You'll get it done. You'll get it done. But yeah. Either way. So this piece is about how chickens have been raised over the centuries. And you may wonder why chickens, and I get my ideas often from suggestions from other people. So my dad said, how about livestock? And I'm like, yeah, right, Dad. And then I started looking into chickens. I'm like, hey, there's something here. Because it's the most common meat in the United States and probably throughout the world. Yeah, but how did it get to be so common? And it's all the same genetics. All chickens are the same species,
Interesting.
same genus species. And in fact, they are the same genus species as the original red jungle fowl, which is the ancestor of the domesticated chicken. The red jungle fowl was native to the Indus Valley, and they were first domesticated in 2000 BC, primarily for cockfighting. Now, this may sound like a barbaric practice, but the way it was often used was to resolve disputes between conflicting tribes or
So
you know,
rather than fight
cities.
each other.
Right.
That's-
So I've actually illustrated here a famous fight between two peoples. I forget if they were nations or something like that, tribes. And they really resolved it with a cockfight and they didn't have any conflict. So like, if you think of it that way, it's actually quite civilized and they respected the results. But people really didn't eat these chickens. These were extremely valuable once you bred them for fighting. And the other place where they were extremely valuable was in the Roman Empire, around 300 BC and thereabouts.
You said they didn't eat them or they did?
They did not really eat chickens.
So they were revered.
They were revered. They were very highly valued animals, and they weren't very common. And same thing in the Roman Empire. You might find them here and there for eating, but pretty rarely. They were also revealed for their prognostication powers.
What's that?
So in this upper right frame, I have the royal augur, not royal, yeah, I got it, empirical, empire,
Yeah.
the augur.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's got that staff, and he is in charge of the sacred chickens. These sacred chickens would be in charge of figuring out whether to, for instance, go to battle. Everything was about war, apparently,
How
at the
would the
time.
chickens figure that out?
So the auger would scatter a pile of seeds on the ground. They would release the chickens. And if the chickens ate the seeds, or if they ate them in a particular manner, that depending on how the auger set the thing up, it would either go to battle or not. There was one famous case of an emperor who decided to go against the prognostication of the sacred chickens, and they lost that battle terribly.
So would they eat the chicken eggs? And
They
wouldn't eat the
yes.
chickens, but they eat the eggs the chicken made, maybe?
Yeah, the eggs would not go to waste. But there weren't a lot of chickens. I would cut it with the ruler on the other side. That way you can see where you're ending the line.
Good idea.
Or just don't use a ruler at all and cut it freehand. I don't use a
You
ruler
know
when I'm
where,
cutting.
you know where the borders from that straight there?
I do not.
That's why I was doing it. I was trying to keep them straight.
Yeah, I don't worry. I'm more worried about overcutting than making
Okay,
them
good.
completely
Thank you.
straight. Now, chickens really weren't eaten much. They weren't that common. Even through the 18th and 19th centuries, they were always around. But imagine back then, there were so many edible fowl that you would just go out and shoot. They were everywhere. So it was much easier to shoot like a wild guinea fowl than it was
Interesting.
to raise and then slaughter a chicken.
And you're doing a study in these woodcuts, these paper cuts of all this? You know? all
Yeah, so I didn't illustrate that because you can't illustrate people not doing something. But what I have illustrated here is one of the few cases where people were eating chickens, and that was in antebellum South. Chickens were so lowly valued that they were the only livestock that African Americans were allowed to own, or
Interesting.
enslaved ones.
Interesting.
And when their masters allowed it, some of the women who own these chickens would make fried chicken dinners and sell them usually to train passengers at the local train station. So they would take their platter of a chicken dinner, walk to the train station, and it was often Northern soldiers coming back from the front who would buy these dinners, and it would be the best meal they would have had probably in months, if not years. And
You say this is in the United States or?
this is in the
Europe?
United States.
So you're talking about the Civil War now?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Gordonsville, Virginia is famous for their chicken dinners, and that's because
'Cause I thought-
Gordonsville was.
'cause originally you were talking about Europe, jumped to.
Yeah, I jumped ahead here. I jumped way far from 300 BC to the 18th and 19th centuries, because not a lot changed in the interim for chickens, but
So was it considered, was a chicken considered soul food? Because I know.
That's
they weren't-
probably
they weren't-
why.
They weren't given the best cuts of meat to eat. I know that.
yeah, this is probably why it's considered soul food. It's close to the African American, close to people's hearts in that community, partially because of this history.
It's interesting because lobster also
Right.
considered poor man's food for a long time, and now it's like a gourmet food.
Yeah, well, if all you have to eat is lobster, then who would want it? So chickens didn't really become popular at all until Queen Victoria started hen fever in the 1840s. This all got started when she was gifted two or a few cochin chickens, they were called, probably from one of her ministers who was stationed in India. They were called China chickens, but it looks like they were actually from India. And she loved them. She loved these chickens. She would just go hang out in the royal aviary all the time with her chickens, and she would gift the eggs to her friends, to maybe visiting dignitaries. And that really got this hen fever, kind of a speculative market started. The ramification today, in addition to chickens definitely being more popular, is the fact that we still have like shows at state
Mhm.
fairs, and county fairs. We have the fancy chicken shows, and that's closer to what she was into. But it definitely got people more interested in
My
eggs.
Aunt does show chickens.
Yeah, they're beautiful though.
They're
They're
gorgeous.
so good, and they are really fun to cut, I tell you. But people still couldn't figure out how to raise them for eating on a large scale because they would die over the winter,
Mm.
usually.
Well, when you're baking, eggs are an important thing to put in when you're baking. So are they using other types of pheasant, birds to bake with?
That's a good question. I imagine it's likely. I mean, most women say, like a farmer's wife would usually have a few chickens, right?
Mhm.
And so she would have eggs, and she would even maybe sell a few eggs locally, but it wasn't on an industrial scale, right? Like there wouldn't be
Mhm.
enough to make a full business out of it, but you would have eggs enough to make, a pie or whatever you make egg. I don't put eggs in pies, but
We do,
Yeah.
yeah,
Crust.
in the filling and in the crust.
oh, okay, so there, whatever you needed them
Right.
for.
You might want it there.
Yeah, yeah. So this all changed when one of these farmers' wives, who, a farmer who happened to be a wife, named Celia Steele, ordered her usual 200 chicks
Mhm.
in the spring, and she received accidentally 2,000
Yeah.
chicks.
Nice.
And being the industrious woman she was, figured out how to make that work. Another reason it was really difficult to go to that industrial scale was because the chickens would be very territorial.
Mm.
They would kind of kill each other.
Who was supplying the chickens?
You can still order chickens in by the mail, and that's what everyone
Did
did
that
at the
recently with my
time.
mom.
Oh my
She's trying to
goodness.
convince my dad to get chickens.
Oh, I would love that.
He
Yeah.
said that.
Aw, too bad.
Some they were, though it was interesting, they did talk about them, some chickens have different personality types and some were
Yeah,
pet friendly. And
yeah,
others, they were saying were very territorial and you didn't want to
right.
too many of them.
Kind of like
Mhm.
cats, maybe, I
Yeah.
think. So she figured out this way of having a system of coops
Mhm.
where they would be divided up and kind of transferred from coop to coop. So I'm not quite sure about the technical aspects of that, but she kind of figured out that part of it. She
Mhm.
also figured out, she's amazing. She figured out how to get them to survive the winter by adding vitamin D to their feed.
Yeah.
And that is how we now have the Delmarva chicken industry to this day. She was
Wow.
in Delmarva. Another little side note to that was once this industry got moving in 1920s through the 70s, that was also the time of the Great Migration. So a lot of the Black people coming up from the South would go to Delmarva and enter into the chicken industry. It was a great burgeoning industry where they needed a lot of labor all of a sudden.
Mhm.
So it really helped people who were coming
Wow.
north. Now, unfortunately, that industry is not known for the best practices in terms of taking care of their animals.
And what got you interested in this, in studying about the chickens? I must have missed that early on.
Well, I mean, it's everything I'm talking about, right? Like, once I think of an idea for a potential piece, I'll just start to look at its history. I'll read books.
I think,
And if I find something,
Mhm.
if I find enough content there, great. I'm gonna turn it into,
so you were down the rabbit hole.
yeah,
This
I'm gonna
last
turn
week
it into
you
a piece.
Curious.
Yeah, but sometimes I come up with nothing and I'm just like, well, this is not gonna be an artwork. Yeah,
You like to
so,
do, you like your paper cuts to be historical mostly?
yeah. That mostly I have, I'll show you some other
Did you
things.
minor in history or something?
No, I hated history in school because it's all about war and date and, leaders and politics. But once I got into more of the anthropology side of things, it became much more interesting to me. And finding a way into the history, like something like chickens, a subject that seems so pedestrian actually has so many implications and connections to the parts of history that are maybe more traditionally thought of as meaningful.
I appreciate that we do more about microhistory, like when salt came out, it was a big deal that everyone was like focusing on just one thing and its impact on everything.
Right, right. Yeah, and probably salt is
Mhm.
Well,
it's a good.
the word salary, comes from word salt, because they were paid in salt.
Yeah, yeah. I think I need to write that down because I think that could be a good subject as well. Um, yeah, so in that lower left scene, I've got the largest number of chickens that probably anyone has ever cut in one
And
piece.
why did the,
Ew.
policy, like, why did it become more acceptable to eat chickens in the United States than it was in Europe?
Well, it's those technical problems I was talking about before, getting chickens to survive
Yeah.
the winter and getting them to stop killing each other
They
and
survived the winter because she came up with something, so
adding vitamin D.
vitamin D,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, and another element was the Chicken of Tomorrow contest in the 1950s. So there's actually a contest for breeding the best broiler chicken. And the one that won the contest actually was not adopted because I believe it was brown.
Mhm.
And brown chickens have brown like skin, like you could see the quills in the skin. So it was considered unappetizing. So the runner-up was a white chicken. And that one is now the chicken
Mhm.
that we
Yeah.
eat 99.9% of the
That's
time.
interesting.
And they are identical. And that's what we have on the lower right. But like you were talking about, Jean, now we have a growing interest in backyard chickens,
Mhm.
which is like the opposite treatment level. These are very kind of toward the beginning, very
Mhm.
valued birds.
Yeah.
And so that's why I have the scene down on the lower right. This is a backyard chicken coop in Austin, Texas. Austin is one of the most permissible cities for backyard chickens. Yeah.
Now, in terms of where they produce these chickens, is it certain parts of the country considered more popular than?
Oh, yeah. It's still Delmarva, the peninsula.
Is there a reason for
where,
that, historical reason why?
That's where it got started,
Is
and
there a larger
it's
black population there? Is that?
no. I mean, I think that probably was a good place for it because it was there was a lot of space, but it maybe wasn't the best farmland, I'm imagining. I'm not exactly sure why it stayed. I know why it started there, and that's because of Celia Steele and the people that she knew that she could share this information with. Why it stayed, I'm not really sure, but you still have like Tyson's that's there, and I think Purdue is also still there. I drove past both of them once, and of course, you'll never see a chicken there ever. They are all inside
Yeah.
big
Chickens
facilities.
are big
You'll
in
smell them.
Emporia, Kansas.
Yeah.
Emporia, Kansas is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's, just people are protective of their local industries, right? So speaking of salt, I haven't done that yet, but I have done a lot of sugar, and it was kind of funny how I was in the middle of researching this project. I had already started making the pieces, and then I found out about Kara Walker's sugar subtlety in New York City. I'm like, gosh darn it, everyone's going to think I copied her. But our minds just think alike, I think, because I did a lot of,
This is gonna be the front side, right?
yeah,
I see.
yeah,
Don't worry
it's
about
coming
the-
together.
I don't have to worry about the white.
Right,
Gotcha.
that'll be invisible. So this is my first installation where I also included the objects themselves.
Can you zoom in on them a little better? 'Cause I
I'm
can't see
gonna
your
show,
colors real well.
I'm gonna show details, but this is the overall installation. This was at Tephra ICA, which was Greater Arreston
This
Arts
is
Center at
different
the
artists
time.
down here.
No, this is me too.
Oh.
So each light box has a corresponding artifact, sugar artifact. So I'm just going to talk about three of them. Sweet Drug of Venice is the medieval era. And at that time, Venice was the capital of the sugar industry, but of course, sugar doesn't grow in Venice. they had plantations in Syria.
Mhm.
Oh,
And
interesting.
that is what is pictured on the top. So in most of these pieces, I have an upside down element.
Yeah, they
of
look
the
They
production.
look like they're African American, African, I mean.
They are, they, I think, were Syrian slaves. And I don't have a picture of the outside, but on the outside of this, well, you can kind of see it is Syrian, inspired by Syrian glass from that time period. And also it shows up on their clothing. And it shows up on the doily that I've put underneath the sugar cones here. So this is kind of a radial version of the Syrian glass
So
pattern.
were they brought in from from areas of Africa? These
No,
slaves?
not yet. Not at this time. Africa was not
Mm.
involved. Sugar is not native to Africa. It's native to India.
Oh, really? India?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I have a piece about that too. And yeah, so these sugar cones are a result of the way that sugar
Mhm.
was and until recently still was processed. The way that the molasses would drip out would be through the bottom of the cone. So that's how it was sold in cones, and it was usually used medicinally for Europeans at the time. It was prescribed for pretty much everything. So that's why I have an apothecary here measuring out the sugar with his scale.
Hmm.
And then we go to the Renaissance, and this is where we start to bring in the enslaved labor
Nice
from
picture. I
Africa.
like that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice
Um,
textures. Very nice.
At that time, a lot of the sugar was coming from Jamaica, or what they called at the time the West Indies. So I have on this little scroll here, it says a West Indies plantation. And you might wonder, why is there a picture of a city
Mhm.
in a depiction in an artwork about sugar? So the answer to that is, at the time, the way that the rich and the land the lords and other royals would show off their wealth would be to have their pastry chefs create sugar sculptures
Right.
and would cover maybe sometimes entire tables. And during the party, people would come and break off little pieces to take home, usually as a souvenir. You probably wouldn't want to eat it. And so for my artifact for that time period, I taught myself how to create a sugar subtlety using a recipe that's
Mhm.
extremely close to what they would have used during the Renaissance. I tried to find a pastry chef who would do this for me. I was willing to pay someone and no one wanted to do it. And I figured out why. It wasn't particularly difficult, but you had to let the thing cure for about 48 hours.
What are they making, a pastry, you said?
This is made of sugar.
What's it for? Just decorative?
So this represents a slave shack, a slave house in Jamaica or the East Indies. So it has that straw roof
Hmm.
and it just inside it has just a little mat bed like that they would like probably a straw stuffed mat that they would sleep on. And so that was kind of a fun side project to make my slave house out of sugar. And here too, I have the clothing of the lord and lady here decorated with
Is that an accurate depiction of the type of home they lived in? Or is
this one, yeah,
It is.
yeah. Based on recreations that you can see today at the plantation.
Kind of like a one-room house, or?
It's a little shack, yeah, exactly. And they would build them themselves. The enslaved people would build their
Oh.
own homes.
Interesting.
Yeah, the idea of, oh, they get free room and board, that was a complete lie.
Oh, they had to pay for their. Hmm.
Well, they had to make their own. It's hardly free if you have to make it yourself.
Oh,
Maybe they were allowed to cut down a tree now and then to get wood. And that
the
was
land,
probably about,
the land to put it on.
Yeah.
They didn't know it.
well, yeah, they didn't own it. They
I
could.
would say
they
the
could
land
sleep
was
there.
free. It's just like, you can do it over here. My land, but I don't know if you'd be on that part.
Right, right.
You can still see that when you go to Mount Vernon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice that a lot of this history is preserved now.
It's coming. It's getting there.
Yeah, making progress.
I got some hard cuts.
We're gonna be ahead of schedule, maybe.
I don't know.
We'll see. So I said I was going to talk about my installations. This is a room size installation that the city of Alexandria commissioned me to make.
Holy mackerel, that's crazy.
They said, the woman who wanted this said to me, can you make a room size light box? And I'm like, if you pay me, I'll figure it out.
How long did that take?
It took about, I think 2.5 months
That's pretty good, actually.
to make this.
You must have been exhausted.
Well, it was during the pandemic, so it was kind of
Mhm.
all I was doing.
Where was this located? Where was this?
This
from?
was at the torpedo factory on the first floor. of
And
the
then what
torpedo
happened to the
factory.
exhibit when it was over? Where did it go?
Well, its first stop after the torpedo factory, I redesigned it. And I'll show you, since you asked, it went to Market Square, which is right outside the city hall in Alexandria. So this is where it really functioned more as a box as opposed to a room. And then it went to Braddock Road.
You
in
did all the
Town Park.
construction too yourself?
Yeah, so when I was trying to figure out how to make a room size light box, I'm not a woodworker, so I needed some ready-made elements. And I thought these wooden screen doors are pretty accessible. You can see through it. You can easily nail things into it together. So I thought, okay, I'm going to use a screen door. And then I thought, what would I look at through a screen door? I decided, well, a kitchen, because the kitchen would usually be in the back of the house. There'd be a screen door, and you'd have the screen door open so that the fumes from the cooking could go out.
Hey.
So my idea was to create the appearance of walking down an alley and seeing into the back of
You can see,
people's
so you
homes.
see them, they're
Charming.
cooking. Is that the-
Yeah,
That's
so these
cool.
are all
Mhm.
scenes of, and this is me constructing the piece. And
Cool.
these are Tyvek cutouts. So when you go this size,
Mhm.
paper is a little bit scary to use. So most installation artists doing paper cutting will use Tyvek. It's a plastic-like
Mhm.
paper. I don't like to use it normally because
Used for insulation.
yeah, it's normally used for insulation, so it's very strong, but the scraps are not biodegradable. You can't recycle them. I really tried. They say on the DuPont website that they're recyclable, but when you call them, they're like, let me get back to you, and then they never get back to you.
So where is this exhibit now? Did you take it down when you were
Yeah,
done?
it's all down now.
you store it?
I still have the silhouettes, but I don't have the doors or anything
So
like
what did you do
that.
with all that stuff?
The doors did not survive the outdoor parts of the installation as well as the paper cuts, oddly
Funny
enough.
part is being screen doors.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, well, I probably didn't use the right exterior finish because I didn't know I would be putting them outside. It was kind of an
Yeah,
unexpected.
so what happened during rainstorms and inclement weather? Did the exhibit deteriorate in the weather or?
The doors just started to get a little moldy, but
Hmm.
that was the only thing that happened.
Hmm.
So here you can actually see the scenes. I started, speaking of plantations, I started with Jefferson's Monticello. That's what this one is supposed to be. And so, of course, there are some enslaved women cooking in there.
That was still sugar?
No, now we're on to kitchens.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's often a food theme in
Mhm.
my work that keeps coming up. Then to 19th century Southwest. So at that time, we had just gotten all these southwestern states, so I wanted to pay homage to that. And also when we started having these iron stoves in the kitchen. And then like wood burning stoves, right? As opposed to a stone stove hearth that would be in the wall in the 18th century.
Okay.
Then in the early 20th century, we start to see gas. This is a tenement building. And I wanted to talk about in this one, this is the Irish American experience. So they are making potatoes and cabbage. And this would actually be a pretty nice apartment because They have running water now, and they have this gas stove, but still very basic. And at this time, usually children would often help in the
Yeah,
kitchen.
I went to Salle Meadows, the early Viking settlement in North America that's been confirmed really. And they had thatched huts there, and a woman was delegated to be there all day cooking, all day she was
wow.
cooking. And they died young because they were breathing in all that smoke.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really bad.
But they never most of them never really got outside very much. They were constantly cooking, you know.
And where was that again?
Lonso Meadows up in Newfoundland,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's where they found the Viking settlement.
Okay. Um, and I keep on moving through the 20th century and into the 21st century here. So this scene was at the back of the room, and it may look a little bit empty. This is my 1950s scene, which you have to include the 50s, the era of the housewife.
Not to mention, it's just a cute silhouette.
This is my actually she's supposed to be my Chinese American housewife, because in the 1950s we saw the end of the Chinese Exclusionary Act. So you started seeing more Chinese families come in at that time. But I actually had an interactive element to this one. So you could actually go behind here and become part of the scene.
Really? Walk into the building?
So this is my husband's.
Really?
Yeah, he's
So that's a real person there.
yeah. So
That's
you could just,
cool.
yeah, you get back there and take a picture of yourself.
That's
pretty
her
awesome.
husband's silhouette.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, he's wearing a mask, so you can't really see his face because it was all COVID.
So this was only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, this was, 2020.
So
And
they
then
paid you a lot to do this.
not enough.
That's crazy.
But it was okay. Then in 1960s, that's when you start seeing like microwaves, and everyone had a refrigerator by that time.
You already said that this wasn't your idea. They wanted you to do this, right?
They wanted me to do a room size light box, but they didn't tell me the subject matter or anything
Oh,
like that.
Okay.
And then we finally have a man helping in the kitchen in 2020s, and this is actually my husband's family. They're Iranian, so they're making kebabs and rice in that condo scene. And again, here that's
A
what
lot
they
of
look
research,
like.
I bet.
Yeah, I would say I spend almost as much time researching these as I do making them. But occasionally I need a break from the research and I just want to cut something out. So a side project I've had is I will look at things like USB cables and
Like
earbuds,
bicycles.
and
bicycle shapes.
and they kind of do. And I make them look like they're turning into creatures or plants. So this is the culmination of a residency I did in Belgium in 2023.
So that's sculptures within a light box?
This is a whole room. So this room was actually my studio during the residency, and then I sort of turned it into a room-sized light box for the last few days of the residency. And what we're actually looking through a massive window, and the window used to be a garage door. So this space used to be a garage, and they turned it into an art studio.
Now, you said you're going off on a residency in April.
Yes.
So what's gonna be your theme there?
I don't yet know, but it might be, I might do something like this again, I think.
You didn't have to put in a proposal?
I did, but I didn't say what I was gonna do. I just said, this is what I've done in the past.
Oh, okay, that was enough.
Yeah,
Now they trust
yeah. So this is an up close view of one of the folded paper cuts I did. I think it was about 16 layers of paper. And this is rice paper. It's extremely thin. So it's really easy to go through a whole lot of layers at the time. And you can see the detail of how I kind of weave the
you. Want the levels for
But
the
from here,
layers
it's
for
like that.
3-dimensional?
I want the layers for length. So I was trying to cover as much of the space as fast as I
And you want
could.
it to be flexible.
So this is the piece unfolded, and I suspended it on this pedestal and then on this kind of trapeze kind of piece.
You have a lot of energy, huh? Do that.
Well, when you fold it 16 times, you only have to cut it once. It's not so
The
bad.
expression is fold 16 times, cut once.
Yeah, if the paper's thin enough. And I also played with how to pop my larger paper cuts off and install them on a wall. So I just used pins, flat-headed pins, and ticky tack on the head of each pin, and connected this big guy to the wall. This is also my first paper cut that I cut on a wall. I learned that technique from Kara Walker. She cuts all of her silhouettes directly on the wall.
Is that easier? Is that an easier way to do it? Or-
If it's big enough, yeah, because you don't have to worry about table space.
Now, I'm surprised you're not teaching at the university level with all the experience you have.
Universities don't teach paper cutting.
That's interesting.
They don't have paper cutting
Very
programs.
snobby.
Yeah. And now my most recent series is about chocolate. So I have this little guy, I call it my chocolate bar because it's the smallest contemporary light box I've made. It also is the only one that doesn't have any space between the paper cut and the front plexi. So that's why it kind of feels like a chocolate bar to me.
I was wondering if you were inspired while you were in Belgium.
Yes, I went to the Choco Museum in Bruges. Although I gotta say, I learned a lot more about chocolate just by reading books than I did about going to
I think
museums.
it's
Did you
more
go to
the
Hershey?
only-
Hershey, PA?
You know, I would have if they actually had an informative museum, but their museum is really just it's like a ride for kids now. I
think
thought about it.
You're better off with the History Channel on that one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so the cacao to cocoa is just a simple process of like from the cacao pod and how it is gradually turned into a chocolate bar. And this series was a little bit different from my others because instead of doing one light box about the subject, or also different from the sugar series where I did one light box per era, I focus for each piece on a different component of the history. So this first one, the first big one, will go away, is Chocolate's Labors. And so that focuses on mostly the women's work that's involved in making chocolate throughout history. Probably so some of the things that are harder to tell what's going on here, you might wonder what's Dorothy's Boston on this the middle part, Dorothy's Boston.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How thin are these lines that you cut there? Those are really.
They're
fine.
really thin. They're probably about half a
Do you
millimeter.
use a special X-Acto for that or?
No, I just am
good.
really careful when I'm doing those. So Dorothy refers to, I think it was Dorothy Brown, who was an entrepreneur in colonial Boston. And she, as far as we know, she's the first documented person to sell chocolate in the United States. You know about her?
I did a chocolate tour in Boston.
Oh, well, there you go. You may know more about her than I
Probably
do.
don't.
Was it Dorothy Brown?
I think
You're
so.
saying that women were mostly the ones involved in the chocolate industry?
Well,
Sure,
not
sure.
once it became an industry. However, I do have a nod to the women's workers at the Hershey plant in the lowest piece here. So these are line workers in the Hershey plant, and they were usually the ones, it was usually women who were doing most of the wrapping and a lot of the manufacturing of the chocolate. And each of these little things, it has a Hershey kiss on it.
When I was in the Hershey factory, smell was so rich that I didn't even want to touch chocolate for months.
Oh,
I
that's
got
not a good
It got kind of
sign.
nauseated. They gave you free chocolate, but it was just,
Yeah.
or, you know, the street posts were chocolate color, everything was chocolate. But I just saw so much chocolate, I kind of, I mean, huge vats of chocolate, and we're talking about, on one end of the
I
room, the
believe
other
it.
just chocolate.
Yeah.
Just, phew.
Yeah, I didn't eat any of the chocolate at the Choco Museum in Belgium either.
But the
like-
chocolate they eat in South America, they don't add all that sugar to the chocolate in South America. I think they just eat it straight from the bean.
Where?
You know, in South America,
Oh,
the cocoa bean,
um,
they just eat it directly from the
they,
pot.
they might, but, if you're actually in the cocoa industry today, you're probably never eat chocolate at
Too
all.
bitter.
You're just selling it. And you don't get the product back because it's
Oh.
manufactured elsewhere.
Uh,
Like coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't, you drink tea in Kenya, you don't drink coffee. in
It's
Kenya.
interesting. Well, the British influence probably, because
right,
Yeah, because they
Uh,
realize they make more money if they sell the coffee than if they drink it.
right,
That's
right.
actually what the Kenyans told me.
I
Wow.
believe it.
interesting.
Yeah, really similar. Then this piece, Cocoa by Land and Sea, is about the different ways that since chocolate is
Mhm.
a jungle product, it only grows in equatorial jungles. It's always being transported somewhere.
You can't zoom in on those images, can you?
Yeah,
I like the boats, there's boats.
Yeah,
It's
so
amazing detail.
even back in, the Aztec Empire, there were really important people who would transport the luxury goods from the outposts to the city. And
That's
and
amazing.
this piece on the
Yeah,
right,
detail.
this one is the relationship between chocolate and value, starting with the Mayan Empire where cocoa beans actually were currency.
Huh,
And so these little bags that I'm showing at the top were the kind of hieroglyph, or the glyph for a certain amount of
now did you,
value.
when you did all this research, did you, actually write an essay to go along with this stuff? Or was-
Yeah, so if you look at my website, I will have a very short summary of this information on each piece.
Oh,
It's just a really short summary. I don't have full essays about things. I can talk way longer about it than what's on the statement, but the statement will give you the general idea
Hmm.
on my website. And I do have like the contemporary, chocolate on the move down here. So we're going from the African jungle where the cacao is harvested. It's still harvested. It has to grow in the jungle. You can't have a farm of this. So people still harvest, often children. So I'm kind of looking at like depictions of children here. And then eventually it gets transported, via cargo ships. I had quite the time trying to depict a cargo ship and, figuring out how to do the cranes that
Wow,
would
those
load the
those
cargo.
trains are cool.
It's a crane, how when you go to
Yeah.
a shipyard, it has these cranes that
Mhm.
like load these these are meant to display containers, shipping containers, and I've got the big guys on here, Cargill, Mondelez, Mars, and what was it, Barry Callebaut, Larry Callebaut, I forget. That's the smallest logo. I discovered like it was really hard to tell this was in water, and what I feel like resolved it was when I added the seagulls, and then it's like, okay, now
Where
we're,
the seal.
there's a seagull
Yeah.
and there's a
Oh my
seagull.
God,
Now,
crazy.
now you can tell.
Quite passionate about it.
Yeah, well, it's gotta read, right?
Now,
Gotta make
so
a story.
when you do your research, where you just go to the local library, or you go to the library, Library of Congress, those special places you have to go for all this information, or
I try to find books at the library when I can, so,
local library?
Yeah.
regular-
yeah,
Public library.
usually I can find at least one decent book that actually has citations. I've learned that if a book doesn't have citations, I should not trust it, because they will just tell you whatever thing they looked up on Google. And half the time it's wrong.
Well, how much
just
of
like AI.
it, how much of it is, company propaganda from the sugar industry? Because, they obviously
Yeah.
wanted to have a certain slant on how they present themselves.
I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of it is innocent. For instance, I'll tell you an example here. Can I get rid of there we go. So in Chocolate's Champions, I kind of went a little overboard.
Mhm.
I've got like over a dozen people in this. These are all the famous people throughout
Mhm.
history who were chocolate lovers or who helped popularize chocolate. Starting with Cortez and Montezuma. I also have the Richelieus, the Cardinals Richelieu. Now I include them. They're not terribly famous. You may know the Richelieus from like the Three Musketeers. He was the bad guy in the Three Musketeers, the Cardinal. There was also his less powerful brother, Cardinal Richelieu of Lyon, who was one of the first people to consume chocolate because one of the friars who had spent time in the New World brought it back and said it'd be good for his spleen problems.
It used to be a health thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like so many of these things, right? I still eat chocolate if I have a headache. And
Peanut butter cups are the best for you because peanut butter
Oh.
was supposed to be a health food and chocolate's a health
Yeah,
food. So
there you
should
go.
peanut butter cups.
Embrace it.
A lot of fat in there.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. And then so this the Cardinal of Lyon told his brother about it, and his brother, Cardinal Richelieu, who need no other name, was very popular in court, and he popularized chocolate in the court of France. But if you look this up on Google, it will probably tell you that Maria Teresa of Spain popularized chocolate in the court of France. She was the wife of King Louis XIV.
Mhm.
And
So the big change was adding sugar, right? I mean, originally they were eating it straight, but they had a lot of sugar.
well, they were drinking it. Yeah,
Oh, drinking.
chocolate wasn't eaten until the
Huh.
18th century.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so they were drinking. So all of these scenes, they're drinking their coffee. And one of the things I like about showing a hot drink is
Coffee
that
or cocoa?
or cocoa, right? They're drinking their cocoa, and I always enjoy depicting the smoke rising, or the steam rather, rising from their.
Where's the steam?
So there's a steam,
Wow.
and there's a steam. Now in the Aztec one, there's no steam because they preferred their chocolate cold.
Really? They didn't have
yes.
refrigeration, so how did they?
Well, just not hot,
Oh,
Room temp.
Yeah. But Maria Teresa, according to the book that actually had citations, had very little power in court. She was not well liked. And she was documented to enjoy her chocolate alone in her chambers with her her lady in waiting, La Molina. And that was about it. So hardly the influential cultural figure that we might like to think. But there are some ladies, famous ladies I have here, including Queen Victoria, who made Cadbury the official chocolate of the royal family. So they can kind of only have Cadbury.
You have all these boxes at home?
Most of them, yeah. I do have
Where do
one.
you store them? It must take up a lot of space.
They hang on my studio walls for the most part, and I try to get them out in public as much as possible. So I have one of these, the Chocolate Slavers is up at Anne Marie Gardens and Art Center in Solomon's.
Maybe you can get an exhibit at Hershey. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Even if it's not in the factory, just in
Yeah.
the town itself,
And
as a tourist attraction, that would be very interesting.
I did discover that Hershey, unlike a lot of companies, Hershey was not quite as evil. They had pretty good labor practices. So they show up okay in my work
Yeah,
here.
there was some kind of controversy a few years ago where chocolate was bad for babies or something with something.
I wouldn't give chocolate to a little baby.
No, but there was
probably.
some kind of controversy about what they were putting in their chocolate.
Oh,
Was
yes.
it Nestle? Or
Well, a lot of chocolate has cadmium in it, they discovered,
Oh,
which is not good. So, yeah, my opinion regarding that is just, eat as many different brands of chocolate. Like you get your cadmium from this one, you get your mercury from that one, not too
Wow.
much of anything.
why do they need to put all that in there?
I'm not sure they're putting it in there. I think it's probably a byproduct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have, George Washington. He loved his chocolate in
Yeah.
bed with Martha.
Hmm.
And I have Thomas Jefferson, whose, chocolate pot was,
It's mind-boggling how many
mhm.
cuts you've made.
yeah,
Just
there's
can't believe the
Jefferson.
amount of work.
Yeah.
God.
And, yeah, so he commissioned a silver chocolate pot in the shape of a, ancient Roman wine carafe. So that's what this guy, then he's got his crate back here that he just unwrapped it from.
Now that's at Monticello, that,
I'm not sure where it
Where
lives
it-
right now. It might. Yeah, it might be at Monticello. Now, I was talking about banjo yesterday, so here's my first found object light box.
Oh, that's cute. I like that.
Wow,
With the history.
it's amazing. And it actually functions as a banjo, no.
No, so
This is
I,
a light now?
yeah, I ordered it on Goodwill auction. Goodwill now has auctions for all of its higher value items. And so that was a pain because I bid on so many banjos and lost the bidding wars on
That's
them.
that's a real banjo, and
That's
you
a re-
replace the vellum or whatever they use, the animal skin with a, one of your light
Yeah,
things.
yeah. So
Amazing.
there's not much that's changed. I didn't alter very much on this banjo. I removed the few strings that were still on it. It was not in working order when I received it, which is one of the reasons I think I won this auction.
That makes it better
Um,
for you.
Yeah,
You
I don't
won the
feel
au-
badly
You won the auction.
on the banjo itself. Yeah. So this was a broken down old banjo for sale on
It
Goodwill.
was a competition?
It's
so
just an
you-
auction, like eBay used to be.
You say you won. Who you won against who?
Other bidders.
So okay, and then you made the light thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're asking like,
It's an historical banjo though, is it, or just a regular?
I think this is not a very good banjo at all. There's no name on it. There's no make.
Well, the banjo
on it.
originally came from the African American community, right?
Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about to a large degree in the artwork. And you see here, I have two versions. So you can see they're a little bit different. This is the paper cut version. I'll make two pieces. I'll cut two at once. And I'll make one just into a framed paper cut.
Wait, slow down. You make two. Where are the two? Show me what the two are.
This one and this one.
You're working on two at the same time, two banjos?
Oh, this one's not a banjo. It's just the paper cut.
And then you do it again, the exact same paper cut over there is a different,
I cut two at once,
wow.
just like what
Yeah,
Jean is
wow.
doing. She's
Wow.
cutting through two pieces of
How's
paper.
that going? How's that coming along? What do you think? You gonna do it again that way next time or?
Actually,
Oh.
I cut through three at once for this one because I had a template just like that one. So I cut through the template and then two sheets of the black paper. But you could see.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to make a mirror image, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what you would always have if you did a folded cut, right? You're cutting through two or more. Or through a
All this talk,
snowflake.
all this talk of food and chocolate's making me hungry, man.
Well, you want a cookie?
I'm trying to bang this baby out.
Yeah, yeah. We have time, don't worry. We have almost 2 hours
Oh, okay.
still. So I start, like you're saying, in the Caribbean, which we believe is the first place that people started making early banjos out of gourds. And this was largely based on the African instruments that these newly enslaved people remembered using or even making in Africa. So that's the scene I have here. Now, I originally pictured this lady shoveling in the moment, but then I decided, I needed to give her a break. This is her time
Where is she?
right there. This is her time to listen.
Wow.
It's probably the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And people would just,
Really cool.
when they
Uh-huh.
were done with their chores, they would pick up the banjo and start playing for each other. And then the white people
you
got
basically-
into it too.
Yeah.
You basically use your your paper cuts storytelling.
Absolutely.
Very,
Yeah.
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 Do you do fairy tales too?
No, there are enough people doing fairy tales, actually. You'll see that a lot. I want to do something different. So I move from the plantation scene to the minstrelsy period. So, like I said, the white people are starting to get into this, but the banjo is still very much associated with African American culture. And, you guys probably know about this already, right? To
About
some
what?
degree.
About what?
The minstrelsy, tradition. So,
But you don't know about tap dancing. Do you know about tap dancing?
well,
Why-
what
why-
about it?
Why they picked up tap dancing?
Why is that?
Because the slave owners were afraid of insurrection, so they weren't allowed to use drums. So
Oh,
they tapped with their feet. That was
Oh,
their
I love it.
percussion. Yeah,
ooh, that sounds like another nice subject for an artwork.
there you
Tap
go.
dancing, yeah, sounds like the banjo. Yeah, so I have here, one of the most famous minstrels at the time. I did not include his name because I don't particularly want to honor these particular
It's a
historical
delicate
figures.
balance, yeah.
Yeah, but he was a very good banjo player.
Why not?
And because they would.
It's
so
not
these are-
blackface. You're not talking about blackface.
I am,
You
yeah.
are,
So
okay.
these are the
Like Al
white
Jolson
people,
and all them.
right? These are white people who would not only put on blackface, but also perform very caricaturized,
Right.
stereotypical acts of trying to,
Now, were
play
there-
off
there were-
African American stereotypes.
Oh, wow, look what I'm doing here. Is that gonna be,
Let me see.
it's still attached. It's just flexible right here. I'm cutting here, so I guess.
Yeah,
it's
just support it with your fingers as you cut,
You're
so
right.
it doesn't pull back.
So were there black minstrels?
Well, of course, there were still plenty of black people who were very good banjo players.
That's what a minstrel was, a banjo player?
No, I think that it's a good question. I'm not really sure that there were any black performers that would identify themselves as minstrels. Usually when you're talking about minstrelsy, it was largely blackface, but I would not be surprised if there were at the time some black performers who took advantage of the craze
Right,
and performed as minstrels.
right.
Was, wow, he does it really well.
Because he's actually black. But it was more socially acceptable to go to, as a white person, to go to a performance of white people performing in blackface than it was to go to an actual performance of black.
But the probably the most accomplished musicians in banjo were probably black, right?
At the time, well, I don't know. I mean, I think it was a really growing art, so I'm sure you would find very accomplished players of both races.
Wow.
And in fact, I even learned that African American characters in books at the time were often called banjo because the association with the instrument was so strong. So
Well,
amazing how
the
it's
white
shifted.
people probably learned how to play the banjo from the black people, right?
Right. At first, yeah. And then the industry decided that they wanted to start associating the banjo more with white culture, and they began the classical movement. And they decided this is a great instrument for ladies in parlors. So that's
What about Appalachia?
that's coming.
Oh,
But before the bluegrass period, there was the classical period, and that was more in the 19th century. And these were all love songs meant to be played by women. And the saying went that a banjo, something along the lines of a banjo song is never finished, or a banjo performance is never finished, because halfway through the song, she would be smooching her audience. They were very, I guess, sexy songs for the time period. And by this time, banjo had also spread to Europe and was becoming very popular in England and Ireland. So I have little nods to that with an Irish knot here and the British rose right there.
now, have you ever thought of putting all these together like in a book?
As a catalog?
Well, even a history book, it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
To, because your paper cuts could probably be mass produced, through, laser or whatever, once they're cut. And then you could sell them as a book, and you could have the history right there with it. I think
Yeah,
that'd
it'd be an idea, yeah. So you're talking about the
Because
Appalachia,
because I think people visually, it's so interesting, and that, so it would lend itself really well. People would be taking interest in reading about it just because they'd want to understand all your cuts.
yeah, maybe. I think once I have a critical mass and of these, it feels like it's covering enough ground that's connected, then maybe
Well,
we
something
can
like
turn
that.
to a book.
I'm thinking like the Smithsonian or Smithsonian Folk Festival, for example. You
Right.
appearing there with all this stuff, and you can have the history with it. People, especially the African American community, might find that really interesting to read about. It's amazing how a lot of the people whose ancestry dealt with this don't even know their history. So they
Mhm.
learn a lot.
They're starting to, and that's the scene I end with kind of the hopeful reintroduction and the uncovering of the real history of the banjo. So I have Rhiannon and Giddens up here.
Did they
with her
modify
band.
the instrument much from what it was in Africa?
Yeah,
They did.
it's pretty, I mean, if you look at the akontin is one of the instruments that they think is the most closely related to the banjo. It's a gourd, it's much longer neck. It's a rounder,
It's a gourd.
it's a gourd,
the
yeah.
vent-
It's
Oh,
made of a
and
gourd.
here we'd make it out of wood, right?
Yeah, usually wood.
So it must have a different,
Mine is steel.
so it probably has a different sound than the African one.
Yeah,
Using
but,
different material.
but it's played very similarly, right? Okay, so I think I might be at the end here, Well, you've been asking your questions all along,
Yes.
so.
Is this something
Any more
is this,
questions?
Is this being used to have people see this? Is that what this is?
We will see, yeah, if you're listening now, then yes, I guess. Some other people will hear and
Now I gotta
see
cut out all this white
and
space.
can hear about our process as we go along cutting today.
Take a break. I got these big chunks to cut out now. This is
All
gonna be,
right.
now, it's interesting. So this frog is just gonna be sitting out in space. He's not gonna be grounded to anything.
He's gonna be grounded to the border.
Yeah, okay, so that's the purpose of the board.
Yeah,
Got it. Now I understand.
all right,
Okay.
okay. Well, I think that's a good place to stop, so
Ah.
adios.